What if everything you knew about morality was a liability? What if the key to power wasn't being good, but being effective? Welcome to the book that shocked Europe, coined the word Machiavellian, and turned political philosophy on its head. This is The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli.
In just 15 minutes, we are breaking down this explosive 16th century manual for power. We'll explore who Machiavelli was, the brutal Italian politics that forged his worldview, and the guide's core lessons on human nature, control, and leadership. And we'll ask the ultimate question: was this the work of a cynical tyrant or the first honest political scientist?
Let's start with the man himself. Niccolò Machiavelli was born in 1469 in Florence, a city torn apart by political chaos. He lived through the rule of the Medici, a powerful banking family who ran the city. For 14 years, Machiavelli served as a high-ranking diplomat and secretary for the Florentine Republic, traveling across Europe and witnessing the raw, messy reality of politics up close.
He saw noble leaders overthrown, ruthless mercenary armies switch sides overnight, and corrupt popes scheme for territory. One man in particular fascinated him: Cesare Borgia, the son of Pope Alexander VI. Borgia was a charismatic, utterly ruthless warlord who would do anything, murder, betrayal, anything, to build his own kingdom. For Machiavelli, Borgia was a perfect case study in pure, effective power.
But in 1512, everything changed for Machiavelli. The Medici family returned to power, overthrowing the Republic. As a top official in the old government, Machiavelli was fired, imprisoned, and even tortured on the rack for weeks. Broken, but not beaten, he was exiled to a small farm outside Florence. It was in this bitter exile, in 1513, that Machiavelli wrote The Prince. He wasn't just writing a philosophy book. He was writing a desperate, cynical job application. He wanted to impress the Medici family and get his old job back. So he wrote a guide on how to gain and keep power, using the bloody politics of Italy as his textbook. He dedicated it to Lorenzo de' Medici, the ruler of Florence. The book was published in 1532, 5 years after Machiavelli's death. But even before it was printed, rumors were swirling. People were shocked. Unlike the old Mirror for Princes books, which told leaders to be kind, just, and Christian, Machiavelli's guide was brutally honest. He wrote in everyday Italian, not Latin, so ordinary people could read it. And he argued that to keep the state safe, a ruler had to be prepared to be evil. Over 26 short chapters, Machiavelli breaks down the science of statecraft. Let's walk through the most important ideas.
Chapters 1 and 2. He starts by splitting states into two categories: hereditary principalities and new principalities. Hereditary states, where a prince's family has ruled for generations, are easy to keep. People are used to it. A prince just has to avoid shaking things up too much. But new principalities? That's where things get dangerous.
Chapter 3 focuses on mixed principalities, when you add new territory to an old state. Machiavelli learned from watching the French King Louis XII, who conquered Italy and then lost it all. Why? Because when you conquer a new land, the people who helped you expect rewards you can't give them. And if you set up a colony there, it's smarter to crush your enemies with swift, severe violence than to do half measures. A key rule: always hurt your enemies hard and fast so they can't hurt you back.
Chapter 13. On Military Power. Machiavelli has zero tolerance for mercenaries or auxiliary troops, soldiers borrowed from a stronger ally. He calls them useless and dangerous. Mercenaries, he argues, are disloyal, cowardly, and will abandon you the second a real fight starts. His rule is absolute. A prince must always rely on his own army of loyal citizens. The foundation of all states, he writes, are good laws and good arms.
Now we get to the most famous section. Chapter 17. Cruelty and Clemency. Should a prince try to be loved or feared? The old answer was loved. Machiavelli's answer is famous. It is much safer to be feared than loved. Because, he argues, men are ungrateful, fickle, and deceitful. Friends will betray you, but fear of punishment keeps people in line. But there's a massive caveat. A prince must avoid being hated. Never steal your subjects' property or seduce their wives, and they'll accept your harsh rule.
Chapter 18. How Princes Should Keep Their Word. Should a prince be honest and faithful? Not always. Machiavelli says a leader must have two natures, that of the lion and that of the fox. The lion scares away wolves, but the fox recognizes traps. A prince should be a great deceiver. Keep your promises when it's convenient, but break them the second it benefits your state. He argues the masses only care about results, not the morality behind them. Chapter 25. The Role of Fortune and God. Machiavelli believed fortune controls about half of our actions, but the other half belongs to human ability, or virtue. Virtue doesn't mean being good here. For Machiavelli, it means strength, cunning, and the raw force of character to impose your will on the world. And fortune, he says, is a woman who favors the bold, the violent, and the swift. This is the absolute heart of the prince. Historians and philosophers call it political realism. Before Machiavelli, people believed politics should follow the same rules as personal ethics, be truthful, honest, and merciful. Machiavelli completely rejected that. He argued that politics has its own rules. The goal of the state is survival and order. The goal of the prince is to stay in power. And to achieve those goals, a prince must be ready to do things that would be morally wrong for a private person. In chapters 15 through 18, Machiavelli explicitly says a prince cannot always practice true virtue. If a prince is too generous, he will go broke. If he is too merciful, lawlessness will destroy his country. So the prince must learn the ability not to be good, and to use that ability or not according to necessity. This is the source of the famous and often misunderstood saying, "The ends justify the means." Machiavelli never wrote that exact phrase, but that's the message. For a leader, effective action is more important than moral purity. But is Machiavelli describing evil or simply describing reality? He saw a world where the merciful Pope Alexander VI was a liar, and the good leaders of republics were crushed. In his mind, he wasn't telling princes to be evil. He was telling them to stop pretending that politics was a game of saints. A prince who tries to be good all the time in a world of selfish, ambitious people will be ruined among so many who are not good.
So, is The Prince just a dusty old book, or is it still relevant today? Absolutely. Some scholars still debate whether The Prince was a serious manual or a secret satire designed to trick the Medici into destroying themselves. But whether he was joking or not, his method of separating ethics from power is the foundation of modern politics. You see it in boardrooms, campaign strategies, and global diplomacy all the time.
Modern political observers point to leaders like Donald Trump or Jair Bolsonaro as modern princes who rely on Machiavellian tactics. They prioritize the stability of power over democratic norms. They break promises when convenient, use fear to motivate supporters, and attack traditional elites. These populist leaders often embody the virtue Machiavelli described: adaptable, self-confident, and willing to use chaos for their own gain. However, critics also note that the fear and division they inspire often lead to their downfall.
The book gave us the word Machiavellian, a term for a cunning, deceitful, and ruthless schemer. But many modern historians think this reputation is unfair. They argue Machiavelli was a patriot. He lived through a hellish, war-torn Italy. He wrote The Prince not to teach evil, but to show one man how to unite the country and drive out foreign invaders. He wanted stability at any cost.
What's the final verdict on The Prince? You have to decide for yourself. But don't read it as a how-to guide for tyrants. Read it as a warning. Machiavelli exposes the brutal side of human nature. He forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. What would you do for power? Is it better to be a good person and fail, or be a harsh ruler and succeed?
The Prince isn't about evil or about good. It's about reality. It strips away the illusions of politics and shows us the world as it actually is. That's why it has survived for nearly 500 years. It's a mirror for all of us, whether we like what we see or not. If you're looking for a guide on how to survive in a dangerous world, you've just found it. This has been The Prince. Like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most dangerous ideas.